Hello everyone, Erin from Morehouse Farm here with today's knitting tip, which is how to set up the 2 at a time method for the sleeves on the adult Calvin sweater. And what you'll need is a really long circular needle, or you can do it with 2 circular needles. That's what I happen to have here. The technique and the concept is the same, just that you have 1 long needle versus 2 needles. And that's the beauty of knitting in the round, is you can do it in whatever method makes sense to you. You can do the sleeves on double pointed needles. You can do them 2 at a time that way by knitting 1 round on one sleeve, 1 round on the other, keep going. Or you can put them on joined needles and then work them 2 at a time. What I would suggest either way, if you're going to do 2 sleeves at a time, is something like putting your yarn in a Ziploc bag just to hold the 2 that go together on one sleeve for a stripe together and 2 that go together on the other sleeve for a stripe together, because yarn management is one of the trickiest things when you're doing a project 2 at a time. And then when you add a second layer by complicating it with a second color, a little tip to help you keep track of those yarns and keep them from untangling is something I wish I'd learned a long time ago. So anyway, let's get started here. And what we're gonna do is turn the sweater over, because remember, the right back was where we were starting when we were starting our beginning of the round. So what we're gonna do is take the stitches off of this holder and we'll put them on a needle. So all I'm going to do is pick them up along the way here, and then I'll pull out my yarn at the end. And this is where I wish I had a fast forward. I don't know if you actually want to see me do this on every single stitch, especially on the grown-up size. And you know what? This is going to make some of you nervous, but for me it'll be so much easier. I'm just going to pull this out. I'd rather pick up the stitches without all that extra in the way. And because they're wool, they're not going anywhere. And if they did go somewhere, not a big deal. Here, I'll bring it a little closer to the camera. See how it's fairly easy to pick them up? Right, they're pretty well defined. I just want to make sure I'm not splitting any of them. Sometimes that can happen. See, that one kind of dove into the stitch below a little bit. Not a big deal. And because I'm holding this and I don't have it on anything really stiff, meaning to hold the stitches, I can pick them up as I go around here. And then I'm turning, so I started on the back and now I'm coming around for the front. So if you're doing the 2 at a time method, you're going to pull this needle out, and now it becomes a new needle going back the other direction. And I'll just keep picking up the stitches along the way here. Till I get back to the beginning. And yes, these last couple have come off. It's okay. I'm just picking them up as I go along. Okay, now I'm going to hit pause on this so you get the concept of here's how it lays out for the first sleeve. But remember, you need to pick up some stitches under the arm to close this up as well. So you decide when you want to do that. Right now I just want to lay out the concept of how these end up. So to start at the very beginning again, right, we have my sweater. We flipped it over so that we were starting from the back right, which is where our beginning of the round marker was. We picked up the stitches going around, because remember, as we're knitting this sweater, this is the direction in which we're knitting. So we're coming across the back, right? Here's where we start, around, across the first sleeve, now around to the front. So that is the first step in the layout. Then the next step would be to continue with this needle. And I can yank this, I can pull these stitches can bunch up, I can lose this loop in the middle here, that's not a big deal. I can reset that later. as I go pick up the stitches for the other side. Okay, so I'm gonna take this out as well. Again, do it one at a time if it's easier for you. Slip it from the stitch marker to the needles. That's okay, you can even do it part way. I might do that this time because those last couple of stitches did just jump off, didn't they? So here we go. I'm coming across, remembering I'm gonna need to pick these stitches up again, but I just wanna get this situated first so I can think about what do I need to do next. And here we go. I know brown against my brown desk is probably not the best colors to see. But I am loving the way this lily colorway turned out. If you recall, I had some very different skeins to play with, and all I needed to do was alternate them. If you have one that's a little hard to grab there, easy fix is just have a crochet hook or a separate double pointed needle near you. Make sure that the one next to it doesn't go anywhere. You can just grab that guy that way. And remember, these stitches aren't going anywhere until I make them do something. The only reason that dropped out was probably because I tugged on it in the wrong place. And the more comfortable you get with handling live stitches, especially when they get loose, the less stressful life is. Okay, so we're continuing on around. And again, because I'm on a circular needle and here I am getting around to the rest of the sweater, I'm just going to slide the stitches down into the shaft so that I have the flexibility of the needle cable so that I can pick up the rest of these. And I need a little more length there. So I'm just gonna tug it. I got one stitch that decided it was gonna go for a little ride. It only went one, not a big deal. I'll keep picking these up. And again, I have a very short needle. Remember I said you need one that is at least long enough to come back around on itself to knit with comfortably. This one may be too short for me to do that given the number of stitches here, so I'll show that to you in a sec so that you can make the decision what's gonna work best for you. There is no right or wrong answer for what length needle you're going to use if you're trying to do 2 at a time in the round. It's got to be comfortable for you. I do suggest that for most of the needles that are at least 32 inches, have the ability to fold back on themselves without trouble. So I find 40 more comfortable. I find 60 too long. Totally up to you, but that's also why you can use this method similarly with 2 circular needles. So here I am. I'm looking at the front of the sweater and it looks like it's all rumpled together right now. Okay, but look at this. I've started, right? If I'm turning it around, thinking about it in the direction in which I've knit, back right. Okay, so this is where I started. I'm going to have some stitches here. The other half is folded over. Okay, I've got some stitches here and the other half is folded over. So there I go. Okay, see how short this needle is? I can make it work. If I wanted more room, it will be a lot more comfortable to have a bunch of the cable sticking out here and a bunch sticking out here. So I think this needle is shorter than I would like it to be in order to work like this. So the other thing you can do is if you have a spare long circular in the same length, just transfer the sleeve stitches from the front quote side onto the second circular needle, which is how I'm going to knit these. And I think the setup will be even easier to see once we've got that because they won't be jumbled together on such a short needle. Okay, and same thing over here. Just turn it around so my points are together. Now, those of you who are watching now, you're saying, Erin, wait, you forgot the pickup stitches under the arm. I didn't forget them yet, but you are right. We absolutely need to do those. What I want to do first is just show you how the positioning of this sleeve stitch setup works, then you can decide what you need to do in order to back up just a teensy bit and get started. Because I think this is the hardest part of knitting 2 at a time in the round, is just getting your head around how it works. Once you got that, you can do anything. But here we go, same idea. This could be on 2 circular needles or 1 really long one. Now I have to decide where I want to start. And because Vanessa has told us, right, back right shoulder, so you can see the orientation, turning it around, this is where I'm going to start my round. Okay, I'm going to actually back this up so that these stitches are on another needle. Okay, I could do it with this needle over here. I could do that with a double pointed needle. I just need something to hold these so that I can work my way back to here, pick up my stitches, and then start knitting. So I have this tiny circular, or this tiny double pointed needle. How tiny doesn't even matter, right? It's just a stitch holder at this point, and looks like I could more evenly distribute these anyway. So off they go. And the beauty of this tiny needle is, boy, they go on so much easier. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, then I'll pick these up. I'm just going to back the needle up a little bit. And that's always the trick at the end with these, right under the arm, because that's an area that has a lot of tension on it from all the different ways it's being pulled. Those stitches are going to tend to be tighter. Not a problem, we can work with it. All right, so there we go with these set up and here. So my biggest question is, what needle do I want to be knitting with? And you can see my sweater here. I've got a free needle here. If I want to do this one on this side, I am ready to go. So I think I will start right there, grab my yarn. And I'm going to count over to about where I need to start. You're going to be super careful when you do this to make sure you're counting correctly. And we will add the stitches. 1 in 1. See how I'm going right into the middle of the V, right under that cast on, so that they line up 1 for 1. You'd never be able to tell the difference in that when it comes back around. All right, and there you have it. Now I am all positioned to knit. I'm going to start here, head across this sleeve. When I get to the end, I will reposition my needles so that I am knitting with the one that's on this side. Okay, so I'm going to continue with this needle on this side, this needle on this side. So I'm going to knit across here. Then I will use this needle to knit here. I'm going to start the new yarn on this side, remembering to pick up the stitches under the sleeve or under the arm here, knit around on this one, and then come all the way back. So that's the setup. Happy knitting, everyone.